How are you, my beloved students? We proceed with our subject, which is known as Literature and English. Also, we are discussing about literary devices, as we looked or discussed a lot about it on the last periods. So on the previous periods, we discussed a lot of them. So if you started to follow this session where we started on this subject, I think we know those literary devices which we have discussed already. So today we proceed with another literary device which is the satire. So satire is one among of literary device which we discussed on the last period. So let me remind you a little bit about satire. So when we are speaking about satire, it simply means that is a kind of literary device, or is a literary device whereby which makes criticism about bad behavior of a certain person or weaknesses about a certain person by using humor. When you speak about humor, in Kiswahili you can say that utani. So you are trying to criticize him or her by using humor. And when you are making that kind of criticism, he or she will feel so happy. But when he or she feels so happy, there are some kinds of criticism which are being included on that kind of enjoyments which you made on him or her. So today we proceed with another literary device which is known as apothesis. Apothesis in Kiswahili we call it mdokezo. So when you are reading any kind of literary work, there are some scenarios you will meet with some examples whereby when a certain character wants to say something, so want to say something, or he or she wants to convey about a certain message. So when he or she tries to convey a certain message, there are some words which are not appeared on that sentence. So there are some sort of incompleteness of the several sentences. It can be a sentence or an expression or statements. So that is it. That is apothesis. And if we want to determine apothesis, it is followed by several or a lot of full stop. So I can kill, and there are some full stops that can follow where you ended speaking about a certain or saying about a certain expression. So here apothesis, it can be said so as to reduce some harshness of the words. Maybe he or she realized that if I can complete this sentence or expression, there are some abusive language which I may use. So he or she may use apothesis. Also, another function of apothesis is that when you are trying to use it, it can try to show strong feelings which we have. Maybe there is a certain character who feels so happy, feel so happy, or feel so shy, or feel so angry. So due to strong feelings which a certain character has, can make him or her to use apothesis. So there are some words or syllables or words can be omitted, can be dropped down. So there is example here. Apothesis is a deliberate failure to complete a sentence. So is a deliberate. It refers to a deliberate failure. So this is deliberate. So it is a demand. It is a desire of an author or a certain character to say what? Failure to complete a sentence. So when you are composing or when you are speaking about a certain sentence, you fail. Your failure to complete the whole sentence by omitting some words at the end of that sentence or statements, we say in the literary work, we call it hypothesis. So here there is example. My teacher told me. My teacher told me. Thereafter follows with several full stops. So here there are some words which are omitted. So the issue of omitting some words in a sentence make that sentence to be incomplete. So the certain sentence or a phrase or statement or an idea fails to be very completely or to be completely. You have to know that there is use of hypothesis due to the omitting of some words. So here there are several words which can be followed after the word me. So that is another literary device. So when you are reading any kind of literary work, you will meet with some expressions like that. So if we meet with several expressions which try to do as appear on the board, you have to know that that is the hypothesis. Also, another literary device is barbarism. Another literary device is barbarism. So when we speak about barbarism, is the use of more than one different language. Barbarism is the use of more than more than one different language in the same dialogue or conversation. So when you are watching or listening or reading any kind of literary work, there are some characters who try to mix, who try to combine or to use more than one language. And barbarism can be used by using one word from another language and another word from another language. Also, he or she may use one sentence by using one language, and another sentence can be used on another language. So the issue which we are talking here is called code mixing and code switching. So when you are trying to make, when you are trying to combine or to use more than one language, so we may use two languages in our communication or in our conversation of a certain characters, we have to know that that is barbarism. So in dialogue or conversation, example, nitakukolu. So a word nitaku, this is a word which is coming from Kiswahili. Is a Swahili word. Also nitakuja leo jioni if God wishes. So nitakuja leo jioni if God wishes. So nitakuja leo jioni, these are the words of Kiswahili. Also, if God wish, these are the words which are coming from English language. So here there are more than one language which have been used in this conversation, which are being done by several characters. So if we can observe several texts, we will meet with several characters who try to combine or to use more than one language. And the main goal, one among of the goals which make some characters or an author to use some characters who are speaking more than one language. The first aim is to show education level which several people attained. So we do normally that if someone try to combine or to use more than one language, we can know that he or she is educated one. Also, the uses of barbarism, it helps us to know status of the several characters. So when poor man speaks with his or her fellow, we can know that he is a poor man. But when when the people who have the ability financially, we can know that the way they speak, by mixing these several languages, we may realize that their status is upper class. So that is some goals of using barbarism in a literary work. So if we want to understand a lot about those literary devices, when I try to teach you, so just try as much as you can to find out some literary texts so as to observe those issues which you are discussing here theoretically. So when you read a literary text, you will do it practically. So what we discussed on theoretically, you make it into practically. So you have to do so as to broaden your understanding about those issues which you are discussing here. Another literary device is onomatopoeia or echoism. So you may say that onomatopoeia, in another term we can call it echoism, or you may say that onomatopoeic words. Onomatopoeic words. So in Kiswahili we call it tanakali sauti. So when you are listening or reading several literary works, there are some words which have been imitated, its sound. When you read one among of literary work, there is one or certain character try to make laughing. Maybe where you come from? I come from Dar es Salaam. So a character who asked another character can start there to laugh. Ha 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 ha. He laughed. Ha ha ha. He laughed. So ha 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 are the imitations of the sound, and the sound of it is laughing sound. He started to cry loudly. So those sounds of crying can be written. So those words which have been written by imitating the sound of crying, that we consider that is a barbarism. It is a onomatopoeic or echoism or onomatopoeic words. So these, when we speak about onomatopoeia or echoism, these are words which imitate the sounds of their objects. These are the words which imitate, that is, you have to be very careful, which imitates the sounds, which imitates the sound of their objects. So we have a lot of objects which produce several sounds. So that several sounds which are being produced by a certain object, you have, and those sounds can be written on the readings or on the text. You have to realize that is the onomatopoeia. There are some examples here. TikTok, sound of clock. So if we're gonna have a watch, maybe when try to around TikTok, TikTok. So if these sounds which can be produced by watch, and these sounds can be written in the certain text, you have to know that this is onomatopoeic words, simply because the imitations of these are the imitations of the sounds which are being produced by certain object. So we have a lot of examples about onomatopoeia. As I gave you earlier, that the imitation of laughing, it can be the imitation of laughing, the imitation of crying, the imitation of the imitation of a certain action which can be done by somebody, and this can be vividly exemplified where someone said, I knocked him a fist, or I fisted him. Pa! The sound of pa, which if can be written, that can be taken as a onomatopoeic words. So those are the several examples of barbarism, of onomatopoeia or echoism. So another literary device is overstatement. Overstatement. In another term, we can call it hyperbole. Hyperbole in Kiswahili we call it mubalagha, kutia chumvi. So any kind of literary work, or most of literary works, there are several scenarios where an author or an artist tries to supercharge or to exaggerate or to increase the reality or fact of a certain thing. So if we are reading any kind of literary work and there are some expressions that try to exaggerate or to increase the reality or the fact of a certain thing, that is hyperbole. That's why those words have been supercharged or exaggerated the fact or reality. Here, overstatement is a figure of speech that involves exaggeration of the fact. Is a figure of speech that involves exaggeration of the fact. E.g., he cried the ocean of tears. So there is a mistake here which have been done in issue of composing those sentences. But what have been meant on that expression? So when I can say that my daughter started to cry, and her tears was full in the bucket. So we know that even how much you cry, you can't fill up a bucket with your tears which follows from your eyes. You can't do so. So that is overstatement. Maybe he or she or a daughter has cried for the long time. We know that your daughter So after discussing about those previous literary devices, as we made a long discussion and with examples which we included on that issues. So now we discuss. We can start with, or we may proceed with another literary device, which is archaism. So archaism is a figure of speech in which a word or phrase is considered very old-fashioned and outdated. So when we will meet with several words which have been outdated or old-fashioned, we have to realize that this is archaic words. That's why the old-fashioned or outdated. There are no longer user in the daily communications which people use. So we have a lot of examples. There is a word thigh, fee, wisty. In modern English, we call those words which, you, why. There are a lot of them, but in how we arrange sentences, or we're arranging words in the sentences. So how do we arrange the words also? On the old English language, there is a certain order which were observed when they were composing different sentences of English language. But nowadays we have new forms of composing our sentences, statements, and among others. So if you will meet with such issue as appeared, or as I told you, you have to realize that this is archaism. So archaism, it can be in the group of letters, a word, a phrase, spelling, a group of words, a group of letters, and the syntax. So those are the issues which concern about archaism. Also, archaism, we can say, are the expressions which are no longer used in everyday language. So those words, spellings, syntax, and a group of letters are no longer used in everyday language. They are considered to be outdated. So how do we say that are considered to be outdated? We can't use them. So we can't use such expressions which have been outdated, phrases which have been outdated, spellings which have been outdated, as well as group of letters which have been outdated. So after a long discussion which we did, there is an exercise here which have to tackle about those literary devices as we discussed on the previous periods. So with examples, distinguish the following literary devices that follow. So you have to distinguish, you have to make differences between between the following literary devices. So here you have to make differences. So those literary devices which we discussed differ one after another. So why do we say that those literary devices differ? You have to realize those differences which appear among themselves. So the first distinction which you have to provide is overstatement and understatement. So you have to provide the difference between overstatement and understatement. But don't forget, you have to provide it by using examples. Another is sarcasm and satire. So we discussed a lot about satire and sarcasm, and those are the forms of making criticism. So how can we know that this is sarcasm or satire? So you have to make a difference between these two terms as used in literature by providing vivid examples. Also, the last one is apothesis. Apothesis. So when you speak about the apothesis, When you speak about hypothesis in Kiswahili, I do remember I told you that is mdokezo. It simply means that there are some words which have been omitted in either a sentence or statement or expressions. So there is incompleteness in the sentences. Also, you have to differentiate it with tautology. So let us end here. If God wish, we shall continue on another.
Purchase your tracks today.